throwing up for you. Cannot go on record.
No, he's alert.
Alert?
Oh, I just about alert.
Okay, wait.
Okay. Which one are we doing?
So yeah.
What's something so bad you got so frustrated with it? Like,
When people have food stuck in their teeth, and you just look at it and you're like,
Do I have any maybe?
got it. Oh,
She actually touched my teeth.
So when someone has a booger, but it's not a deep one, it's just a little snowflake sort of size one that just sort of chills on the bottom part.
And this guy had his shirt, and you have to tuck it in, but he tucked it into his undies. And I was just like, oh, come on, that's just horrible.
when people use the wrong "your" and "to" in a text message.
People's grammar, I just can't stand it. Like, I'm a very, good at English person. Well, I would hope so. Maybe not.
So logging on clients' computers and stuff at work, you log in and there's all this stuff that they just don't need. In the way, waste of space, waste of time, so you just go and get rid of it all, delete it, gone.
My mum, you tell her how to use the TV or Netflix or Messenger 1,000 times and she still doesn't get it.
When you go to Macca's with the squad and there's that one person that just doesn't get anything, so you go up to them and ask them, bro, what can I get you? And they're like, nothing. So I just keep asking them until they tell me something, and then I go and get it.
You just want them to be blessed.
You will take my blessing.
Someone's fly is undone.
And you're like, you really just want to fix it, but then you know that's...
Sign language like...
And then you can't go in for the kill, so...
Yeah.
So when my brother puts his clothes in the wash, it's always inside out. And then so I have to make sure they're right side out, and it's just not a fun time.
On people's, when they just rant on and on and on, and it's just repetitive, I call them out on it, definitely. I'm like, you repeated yourself a lot.
We have these signs at work that everyone just throws into the container, which makes it really hard to find stuff. So I go through and put them all in alphabetical order again, which they're supposed to be. But they don't stay like that.
People have their clothes tags, the back of their shirt sticking out. Literally, if people are in the middle of a conversation, you just walk up to them. Oh, Ethan. Yeah, I'll just go in and tuck it in their shirt.
okay, take 2. We are live again. Welcome everyone to See No Evil week number 1. This is our new series, and all of those examples you've just heard, I wonder if you've ever found yourself in those situations, and we've all found ourselves in situations where something is wrong and maybe you've gone to fix it, or maybe you've just left it alone and walked away. Maybe someone has sneezed and there's boogers that are just coming out of their nose at 100 miles an hour. Maybe you see food in someone's teeth and it's just so obvious, but you choose to let them discover it later. Or maybe, there's someone who's just got a huge pimple on their face and you can't stop looking at it, but you just don't tell them.
Yeah, and fair enough, we don't want to embarrass some people, and sometimes there's situations that call for us to stay silent. But I believe that there's actually things that when we see them, we can't ignore them. It's like a boy treating a girl like trash or pushing her around, treating her the way that she shouldn't be, or someone being bullied at school, someone being constantly left out, someone always eating lunch by themselves, people who always get left out of group activities. They're things that we really shouldn't be ignoring.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes when we see these things, we just look the other way, and it is a little bit sad, but it's kind of a little bit understandable because, in those situations, we can feel like when something wrong's happening, we just don't even know how to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Or sometimes the thing that we see happening, the wrong that we see happening, we just don't want it to happen to us. Or maybe it looks like a scary situation and we're just scared to speak up about it at all. And so I think no matter the reason why, sometimes we just look away. Yeah.
And I believe that when we pretend we don't see these things, we actually look a little bit like this guy. So this guy is the See No Evil monkey. And that's actually the name of our new series, See No Evil. And this series is all about what we do when we see injustice happening around us, and how do we respond to that injustice, because sometimes we just don't even know what to do. We don't know how to respond.
Yeah, and I think Jesus was the prime example of this. He never missed injustice when it was happening around him. Sometimes we miss it, but he never missed it. He could always tell when someone was needing. He could always tell when someone was hurting, and he always stepped in and cared for that person. And I love that. So I think it's going to be great to look at his life.
You know, Jesus' ministry had a lot of caring for people. You know, Jesus saw people who were sick and he went out and he healed them. He saw people who were outcast and he went and he restored them, and he freed slaves and he fed the hungry.
Yeah, and this was all leading up to Matthew chapter 9, when Jesus walks into a city that he hadn't been to before. And it says that when he looked over the vast crowds of people, he was deeply moved with compassion for them, because it says the people were like weary and sick, and they were like sheep without a shepherd. And so when Jesus sees this, we actually get to see how he responds as well. He doesn't just see the evil, but he responds, and he looks to the disciples and he says, look, the harvest is huge, the harvest is ripe, but there is not enough workers to bring it all in. And so he was talking about people that can help those who are lost and wandering.
Yeah. And right here we see how Jesus responds to what he is seeing. You know, the first thing that he did was he saw the injustice that was happening around him.
Yeah.
And the second thing that he did was he cared for the people. And the third thing that he did was he went and he did something about it.
Yeah. So we want to look at how Jesus deals with injustice when he sees it happening around us. And that's the first thing, is that he actually sees it. Jesus sees injustice. And whilst you might not be so good at seeing the injustice around you, Jesus always saw the need. He always saw the hurt. And so whatever you're going through, you need to know that while the world might turn a blind eye, Jesus sees you, and Jesus sees what you're going through.
Yeah, and seeing injustice around us is sometimes half the battle. You know, you go to school and you just go straight to where your friends hang out. You go straight to your grade area. You know, you jump on the bus and you just go straight to the seat that's right next to your friend.
Yeah.
You get home and you just go straight to your room, or anywhere in general. You know, sometimes our eyes are just glued to our phone screens, so we don't actually see what's happening around us.
Yeah, and I guess that's good in a way, because we're focused on what we need to do for that day, but we can really miss out on playing our part in making this world a better world. And I think if we can lose the tunnel vision that we have, we actually have a good chance of making an impact in those around us. And so I want to encourage you guys this week, don't just rush to your comfort zone, whether that is your grade area or your bedroom or whatever it is. Don't just rush there. Pay attention to the people that are around you. Notice the people who are hurting or the people who are in need. And if you need to, maybe just have some longer conversations with people so that you can better understand their situations. And I guarantee when you do those things, your eyes will be opened to what people are going through in the lives of those around you.
Let's be people who notice the hurt and the need in our circles this week. You know, the second thing that we see here is that Jesus had compassion, meaning that he cared for the people.
Yeah.
You know, when Jesus saw an injustice, he didn't just see it.
Yeah.
He was moved
Yeah.
because he loves each person so much. You know, it's like when you see an ad on TV for a sponsored child and your heart is just moved with compassion for that child.
Yeah, and so we really want to encourage you this week to have that same kind of care. So when you see the people around you, don't just be like, oh, hey, it's Tim, my mate. Hey, it's Sash. You know, actually start to open your eyes and put yourself into their shoes. And that's how we can learn to care for people, is when we can put ourselves in their shoes. So ask yourself, what are they going through? And then, you know, would I actually like to be in that same situation? How would I feel about not having any lunch that day? How would I feel about, you know, sitting alone, at lunch? How would I feel about being picked on? How would I feel about being pushed around at school?
You know, where we can begin to put ourselves in other people's shoes, that's when we can really start to understand how they're feeling and what they're thinking. And when we can understand this, that's when we can really begin to extend compassion towards them.
Yep. So we've got to see, we've got to care, and then of course we have to do something about it. And that's the bit that God was really good at. You know, Jesus, he was healing people, healing the sick. He was feeding people, And he was just meeting needs left, right, and center. And, you know, part of his action plan to meet the needs of this world was to involve us.
Yeah.
And that's why he said in that verse that the workers are few, because he was trying to encourage us to get involved whenever we see injustice in the world, to do something about it.
Yeah. You know, there's this really cool quote by Yana Stanfield, and she says, I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. And, you know, we might not be able to do everything. We can't fix everything that we see, but there surely is some things that we actually can do. You know, we can give some lunch to the person that didn't bring lunch that day. We can stop bullying in its tracks. We can go and sit with that one person that's always lonely at lunchtime. You know, we can call up or chat to or text that person that we know is really hurting and going through a situation right now.
So good. Such good ideas. And I think we could all do better in one of these three areas, whether that's seeing need, caring for the people involved, or actually doing something about it. And so whatever area you need to improve on, I think the easiest thing to start off with is just to pray to God this week. And just, so if you need help in just seeing the needs, like you're just struggling and you're just seeing no evil, then ask God, hey, God, can you open my eyes? I need to see the needs of people around me. Or maybe you just need to care. Maybe you're so focused on what's going on around you that you just hardly care about other people. And so ask God to break your heart for what breaks his. And maybe you see it all and you care so much, but you just don't know what you can do about it. Well, you know, the answer again is prayer, and I would encourage you to pray and just ask God to show you opportunities where you can become involved, because he said the harvest is huge. So he's going to be able to show you those opportunities where you can tackle the injustice that you see in your world.
Yeah, I think it's really important too to remember that we can't be solutions for problems we don't actually see. And imagine if everyone began to pick up this idea of stopping the injustice that we see around us. You know, I believe that we could have such a beautiful community of friends and of family, and I believe that we can do it. You know, I believe that we can be the generation that truly brings change. And so the last thing I want to say tonight is, in your world, young person, what is something that you can do to change the injustice that you see around you, to help other people to truly thrive?
Yeah.